All right. I love this. A lot of new faces in the space. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Dr. Benson. All right. So, good evening. My name is Marcus Brooks. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Health Equity, and we're really excited to have you in this space for tonight's gathering. The Center for Health Equity is an experience designed for community members to learn, connect, and create equitable opportunities to advance racial equity and ultimately transform the community in which we share. So we are really excited to have you all in tonight's conversation. We are grateful to host the Mayor's Community Conversation this evening around the future of the historic Manhattan Casino. The role of the Center for Health Equity, and we want to be very clear about this in this evening's dialogue, is to ensure an equitable experience that includes all community voices where everyone feels a part of the conversation, right? So when you leave tonight, that is in fact the goal, that you feel like your voice was heard and that you were part of tonight's conversation in a real way. It is important that we aim to promote racially equitable outcomes by uplifting community voices to those in power, all right? So when I speak about that, I'm speaking from the Center for Health Equity and the Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg and our role in tonight's conversation. So here at the Center for Health Equity, we hold a series of commitments that we hope will guide you through this experience and dialogue. Again, trying to add value to this conversation and give you somewhat of a roadmap, some guardrails to hold the conversation. We ask that you commit to speaking your truth. We ask that any discomfort that is experienced is seen as an opportunity for growth. We ask that you stay engaged. And we ask that you understand that getting to this point took time, all right? And so we will not solve all of the issues tonight, but we are working towards it. These commitments that I've shared with you all are part of the Courageous Conversation Protocol. You may have heard them before. If you are interested in learning more about that dialogue, please find one of the Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg members in the space. If you are a Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg member, can you raise your hand? Love it, love it, love it. All right, so those are gonna be your folks. Again, we are truly grateful to have you in this space. This is the intention of this space, to have these varied voices, to have these faces, to have Black, Indigenous, people of color, along with those that don't identify in that way, in this space, having these conversations. And so we're gonna start with our first polling question to kick things off, all right? And so I want you all, if you have not opened up the Poll Everywhere software, you're probably wondering, do I need to register? You don't need to do any of that. Just respond to the question that you see in front of you. And so that first question is going to be, when you think of the Manhattan Casino, what is the one word that comes to mind? Whatever pops up for you. When you think of the Manhattan Casino, one word that comes to mind. And it's gonna populate. History, jazz, community, legacy, music. I saw squander. Nexus. Jordan Park. Dining. Community. Heritage. Revenue. So we have a varied, a plethora of words that are coming to mind. This should give you some context into where people are coming into tonight's conversation. Social, legendary, I love it. Entertainment, networking, a place for people to come together. Black, powerful. So hold this, as I mentioned before, in speaking your truth, share the story that's real for you tonight. You all are gonna have an opportunity through the polling, as well as an opportunity at your tables to have some pretty deep discussion. Hold on to those agreements that I shared with you on the front end, and we'll get into it. And we'll keep this rolling. I now have the opportunity to introduce someone who I admire, someone who is a staple in our community, someone who is doing the work on the Deuces, the Executive Director of the Deuces Live, Mrs. Beatrice Farrell.
Okay, so I'm gonna move this a little. Thank you, Marcus, for that gracious introduction. Good evening to my fellow citizens, including elected officials. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Deuces Live, thank you for your attendance. My name is Beatrice Farrell, and I'm the Executive Director of the Deuces Live, the Florida Main Street on the historic 22nd Street South Corridor. The main purpose of the Deuces is to create an atmosphere that both stimulates new growth and enhances the current commercial and residential population. The Deuces believes the continued revitalization of this corridor will not only promote economic development, it will also instill a sense of pride and place among the citizens of this community. The mission of the Juices Live is to promote positive growth and financial revitalization to the 22nd Street South Corridor while preserving its rich heritage. Tonight, the focus is on 642 22nd Street South. Originally known as the Jordan Dance Hall, the building was constructed in 1925 by Elder Jordan Sr., one of St. Petersburg's first African-American businessmen, and his sons. The building, a stop on the infamous Chitlin Circuit, was a focal point of culture and entertainment in the community for more than 40 years and was instrumental in the development of blues, gospel, jazz, and big music in the South during the period of segregation. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce the 54th mayor of the city of St. Petersburg, my fellow Rattler. Hey, we're between homecoming and the classic, the Honorable Ken T. Welch.
So Beatrice didn't say the classic where we will once again beat the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. So I'll throw that in. That's not a good way to start, Wildcats? Well, look, it's great to be here. Good evening. Thank you all for coming out for this first community conversation on the future of the Manhattan Casino. We are really excited and truly grateful to see you all in a full room tonight. I'm told that we estimate we have more than 150 people here and more than 70 online. So it's good to hear back from the community. I do want to introduce an elected official who is with us, Councilmember Copley Gertis in the back. Copley, if you could wave. Our Senator Darrell Roussan was here. I know there he is, Senator. Thank you for coming. Any other elected officials? I do want to recognize our staff led by our city administrator, Rob Gertis. If you're with the city team, if you would, raise your hand. Give it up for the best city team in the state. Tonight, we get to determine what progress should look like for the Manhattan Casino. The Manhattan has had a proud history in our city, and I remember much of it. But even before my time, or when I was small, famous folks came to the Manhattan, folks like Ray Charles and Nat King Cole and Louis Armstrong, just to name a few. It is a part of St. Pete history worth preserving, especially considering how many African-American landmarks have been lost forever in our city. And with the Manhattan Casino, we can preserve that rich history while at the same time fostering a sense of pride and a personal connection for our community, especially as change comes to the Deuces and the Warehouse Arts District. The future Manhattan Casino should also meet one of our pillars, and that is community impact. It has to serve the community through the programs and services that are offered there. One of our governing principles is inclusive governance, and that means that everyone has a seat at the table, literally, and that we actively engage the community on these issues. That engagement, I believe, requires being in the community, and that's why we are here tonight. I want to thank the Foundation for a Healthy St. Pete for hosting us once again at the Center for Health Equity. Let's give them a hand. So tonight we want to hear from you, get all of your ideas on the table and utilize your collective input as we ultimately transition to a new plan for the Manhattan Casino. One designed to uplift our community in the present and the future while honoring our past. We want to hear from you. We want you to think big and outside of the box. We're open to all of your design ideas. What should the Manhattan Casino look like? How should it feel when you walk inside? What types of amenities do you want to see? What kind of events should be held at this historic site? There is no wrong answer tonight. Let the discussion flow. And together, we can build the best next chapter of the Manhattan Casino. I truly believe that. So thank you for your engagement tonight. And now we're going to roll into a couple of videos to give us some background. Thank you all for being here.
So before we get into the video, I want to quickly acknowledge our virtual crowd. We've been getting texts saying, hey, by the way, we're out here as well. So I want to make sure that we do acknowledge the folks that are on the stream as they bring in their words and advice and thoughts on the questions that we have as well. So we're going to get into now a video speaking to the history of the Manhattan Casino.
I'm Dr. Basha P. Jordan Jr., the pastor and founder of Hope Alive Outreach. I'm also the grandson of Elder Jordan. I've been in ministry since 1977, and my whole purpose in life is to give hope to individuals, especially those who suffer from the disease of addiction, primarily drugs and alcohol. Elder Jordan was one of the founding fathers of this city. He was my grandfather. Elder Jordan was a former slave. He was born in 1848, died in 1936. He came to St. Petersburg in 1904, and he began his business by opening up a fruit stand. Then he opened up a livery stable. Then he began to buy properties that were owed taxes on them. Then he began to build residential facilities and businesses, especially up and down the 22nd Street corridor. The Manhattan Casino was built in 1925 by my grandfather, Elder Jordan Sr., with the help of his 5 sons. 1925 was at the height of segregation and racism in this country. And seeing that African Americans were basically relegated to the south side of St. Petersburg, they could not go uptown or downtown except to work. So therefore, my grandfather had the vision to open up a place where African Americans could come and socialize, and also where noted musicians could come and share their gifts. It was a training ground for individuals in the African American community. It was a meeting place where people could come and not only fellowship, but also be at ease and have fun. The Manhattan Casino or Jordan Dance Hall was something like the Apollo Theater of the South, which helped to filter businesses to other businesses in the community and vice versa. So if I could give the Manhattan Casino a living identity, a living organism, I would say that the Manhattan Casino became the grandfather of a lot of African American businesses and social settings. I believe that one of the greatest things that the Manhattan Casino brought to the community was opportunities for African Americans to propel themselves from a nothing and a nobody to somebody, not only in the communities around St. Petersburg, but to move on to greater heights. And in my mind's eye, I'm envisioning little Johnny sitting on the curb, listening to Count Basie and his band, and saying to his buddy, "Hey man, let's go up there." I would imagine he wanted to get in there because it was jumping. Yeah, if I can use the words jumping. I believe that the success of the Manhattan Casino, the success of the Jordan Dance Hall was predicated upon the fact that my grandfather, Elder Jordan, had a vision to have a place where African Americans could come, enjoy themselves, and as long as that purpose is met, man, even in an individual, success is imminent.
This conversation is necessary. It's important. Listening to that really brought me back personally to a time that I didn't exist in, but we're living it out now and we have an opportunity to do something about it. And so that being said, I want to encourage you all again to bring your full selves into the conversation. And hopefully in the future, the place will be jumping, right? So I want to ask this question, the next poll everywhere question, and it speaks to that concept of jumping, right? Do you think the Manhattan Casino should be a music venue? Do you think the Manhattan Casino should be a music venue? Consider this a series of questions that we'll be asking throughout the night. But if that resonates with you, please share that with us. You see the Likert scale: strongly disagree, disagree, agree, and strongly agree. So you all should have the poll everywhere. I'll give you a moment, check in. Do we need a music venue, and could this be it? Shirley, are we going to share the responses, or are we going to hold on to them? Awesome. So we have 103 people and climbing who've responded on the technology. All right. So I am now going to share the next question. I have the opportunity to introduce someone who will be able to speak to and add a little bit more technicolor to the conversation we are having this evening. Mr. Brian Caper is going to come up. Brian Caper is the Director of Economic and Workforce Development for the City of St. Petersburg. Mr. Caper.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Marcus, for the introduction. As Marcus mentioned, I am Brian Caper. I am the city's Director of Economic and Workforce Development. Before I get started with sort of the next portion of our presentation this evening, first, I want to mirror the mayor's comments. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Such a terrific turnout to talk about such an important asset of the city and its future. So before we go into some poll questions, talk about some potential uses, we did want to show a quick video on the Manhattan Casino by the numbers, just sort of explaining what the Manhattan Casino actually has in terms of square footage, various uses, just to give you a snapshot of the site itself.
Historic Manhattan Casino by the numbers. Built in 1925, the two-story building is located at 642 22nd Street South. In its history, the building has been used as a dance hall, a restaurant, a food hall, and an event space. It is 12,128 square feet. Here's the exterior breakdown. In total, there are 55 parking spaces. It spans an entire block on the Deuces Corridor on 22nd Street South. The downstairs space has 6,000 square feet, 200-person occupancy, and it was constructed to accommodate a multi-purpose food venue. It has a full bar service area with 2 restrooms. Here's a lobby breakdown. 2 flights of stairs that access the upstairs ballroom space, an elevator for accessible access to the upstairs ballroom space, and floor-to-ceiling windows. The upstairs space has been predominantly used for a ballroom, with approximately 5,000 square feet. 300-person occupancy, built-in raised stage with professional lighting and sound equipment, dolly service from downstairs kitchen for catering access, and can be configured to accommodate any type of event. Use your imagination and dream up what this space can be next.
So now that we've seen the site's history, its incredible community history, as well as seen what the venue looks like today, as well as the previous uses as a restaurant, food hall, event hall, dance hall, and entertainment venue, let's move to a series of polls. And the first of those polls is, do you think that the Manhattan Casino should have a restaurant and/or food concept on site? Again, do you think that the Manhattan Casino should have a restaurant or food concept on site? All right, we'll give it just another couple seconds. Looks like those numbers are pretty stable. 38% agreeing and 52% strongly agreeing. So we will now move on to another poll question. Do you think the Manhattan Casino should have event space available for rent? Should the Manhattan Casino have event space available for rent? All right, looks like those numbers have stabilized again. 30% agree that it should have an event space available for rent. 61% strongly agree. So we've talked about what the site has been in the past, but let's talk a little bit about potential uses. This is not an exhaustive list, and I'm not saying that all of these uses are potentially a good idea, but just to kind of explore some creativity, get you thinking about what the future of the Manhattan Casino could be. These are just a few uses that are permitted by zoning. It could be residential, hotel, office, medical, retail, studio, indoor recreation, museum, performing arts venue, a library, meeting hall, or a school. So again, not an exhaustive list, just to kind of get you thinking about the future and what the Manhattan Casino could be moving forward. So the kind of main entree of this evening, if you will be our roundtable discussion. And this is to just get you starting to think through some different prompts. We want to hear from you. What are your ideas for the Manhattan Casino? Should it be a city-operated venue like the Coliseum or Sunken Gardens? Should the city partner with an operator like the Mahaffey Theater? What use or uses are most important to you? How should the building's history be integrated into the building's future? You will have an opportunity to share your input on these prompts during the table discussion. I also want to just briefly talk about next steps. The city will use the information from tonight's community conversation to inform our next steps with the Manhattan Casino. But the conversation doesn't end tonight. The community can continue to share their thoughts with the city at stpete.org/Manhattan_casino. A summary of tonight's feedback received and updates on the next steps will be provided via an email to everyone that has registered this evening, as well as posted to the city's Manhattan Casino webpage moving forward. So before we get to that table exercise, a few more poll questions. First, do you think that the Manhattan Casino should have retail space available for lease? Again, should the Manhattan Casino have retail space available for lease? All right, a few more numbers coming in, but certainly a more varied response. 24% strongly disagreeing, 35% disagreeing, 27% agreeing, and 14% strongly agreeing. Next, do you think that the Manhattan Casino should be a space for the arts, such as a museum, a gallery space, an artist studio, etc.? Should the Manhattan Casino be a space for the arts? This is about as even in polling questions as you could get. This is right across the board. All right, pretty split, a little more on the disagree or strongly disagree, but pretty uniform. Next, do you think that the Manhattan Casino should have a space for the provision of social services? Should the Manhattan Casino have space for the provision of social services? All right, 52% strongly disagree, 31% disagree, 13% agree, and 5% strongly agree. So a little bit more on the no for social services. Next, do you think that the Manhattan Casino should have the provision of city satellite offices to access city services at the Manhattan Casino? Should the Manhattan Casino have the provision of city satellite offices to access city services? Certainly. So, for instance, city services, this could be an extension of our greenhouse for small business services. This could be an extension of utilities where you go pay a water bill, parking services. So really things that you would be coming to Municipal Services Center or potentially City Hall, that those services would be accessible as a satellite office at the Manhattan Casino. Yes, ma'am.
I know that Manhattan Casino has been, as I have been, that room is paid. Why are we acting like that the design, whoever is keeping it open now does not exist and like it's some web over building? Why are we acting like that?
No, excellent point. This is imagining the future. This is really understanding what the community's desire is for the future of the Manhattan Casino. So the poll questions are here to help inform the city as to what is the community's desire, as well as our table exercises tonight. They will not be operating there any longer, correct? This is for the future. This is the next step as of November. All right, I think we've got our responses in. 56% strongly disagree, 33% disagree. So an open-ended question, what other ideas and aspirations do you hold for the Manhattan Casino? Display of art, but not the whole building. Facilitate connections. City partnership. Execute community needs. Eatery with regionally focused foods. Entrepreneurship and business space. Music attraction. A welcoming and warm space. Shared co-work. The New Woodson Museum. The origin of its creations. Left as is. And period. All right. So with that, I'm going to bring Marcus back up to talk about our breakout groups and the table exercise. Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that. So first and foremost, I want to affirm what you just shared, speaking to the fact that, the belief that the poll responses may not have the same quality given you don't have the information, right? So this dialogue that's about to happen is going to enhance that. And that's what we want to capture. So the purpose for the next 35 minutes is to dialogue. I want to remind us to hold those 4 agreements in this conversation. All right, so we are going to commit to staying engaged, speaking our truth. This is about telling your story, okay? And I want this to really be a robust conversation. We want to capture everything that is said in this space. It is gonna have the equal opportunity to inform that the polls do. And honestly, the dialogue is probably gonna be even much more rich and robust. So that's what we really wanna get to. We're gonna ask you to experience discomfort. If you are not experiencing discomfort yet, you might wanna start, all right? Because that's where we're heading. And then expect and accept non-closure. Yes, sir. So you all are going to be at your tables dialoguing, and then we're going to offer the individuals with computers, raise your hand if you're a facilitator. Awesome. So these folks are going to be facilitating the conversation so they actually get to where we're trying to go. Otherwise, it would just be a free-for-all in a conversation. We really want this to be facilitated. All right. We truly thank you all for being a part of this discussion. Yes, sir. One last question. Yep, in the back. Yeah. 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 Right. Mhm. That is a powerful segue and point that needs to be acknowledged. I want to be very clear. The Center for Health Equity is hosting this conversation. We are going to be leaning on the city for the follow-up. But thank you for that. Please bring that type of energy to your tables as we capture what happens. And then we're going to wrap this up in conversation afterwards. All right. So facilitators, again, hands up. You all know who your facilitators are. Please continue in the dialogue. And thank you. You're going to have about 35 minutes and then we'll come back together. Real quick, because this is important. It was something that was left out, and I apologize. I want to acknowledge Dr. Basha Jordan, who is in the space with us tonight. You saw the engagement. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, hey, if you want to stand up, we can give you the round of applause, please. Yes, stand up. Thank you. All righty, table discussions. You know what, I might actually go around. Yeah, sure. know you all are still dialoguing. We're going to ask for about 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes to kind of bring your thoughts together, synthesize, and then we will wrap up. About 10 more minutes.
Agape Soul Boutique. High-end boutique looks and quality with affordable pricing. Located at 6025 Martin Luther King Street South in St. Pete. Choose from our amazing selection of stylish, fashion-forward heels, wedges, boots, children's shoes, accessories, and much more. You can shop now and pay later, interest-free with Afterpay. Subscribe to our website and get huge savings on our latest products at agapesoulboutique.com. For more information, call 727-379-1318. Come give your feet the royal treatment and check us out at Agape Soul Boutique today.
All right. I know we are having rich discussion. I'm going to encourage everyone to kind of come back together. Thank you. All right. So I want to first and foremost thank each and every one of you for bringing your voices forward in the breakout groups. I had the opportunity to engage in some of the dialogues. Very powerful. It is important what happens next. All right, and so I want to be clear with you all that the mayor and his team are working to provide you with a summary of what we talked about, what was heard, what was shared this evening by December 1st. So hopefully you all have provided your email addresses via registration. Also be checking the website with the city. All right, and so we will be in constant contact and communication with the city here at the Foundation and the Center for Health Equity to figure out how we move forward collectively. In terms of the space that you all are sitting in, I want to again thank you all for being here with us. You're probably wondering how events happen in this space, and we're going to be very clear about that in the coming months. The space technically actually isn't open. January 17th, 2023 will be the formal opening of this space on the National Day of Racial Healing. We are going to be allowing folks, asking folks, giving folks the opportunity to submit a request online to utilize this space. If it aligns with the mission of advancing racial equity and transforming communities, and we can accommodate it, we want to make sure it happens. This is a new era for the Center for Health Equity, and we want to see each and every one of you in this space in 2023. Thank you all for being here. I'll be around to chat. I got cards. I'd love to connect with anyone. And if you have any further conversations, please. Oh, one thing, submit. If you don't submit, we don't get it. So if you have a computer, a laptop, make sure you click the submit button or all is lost, all right? And if you didn't get a chance to share, if there's something that comes up, those yellow note cards on the table, please write down just a final thought. We will make sure to collect all those. We will not be throwing them away, all right? Thank you all for being here. We truly appreciate you. Be well.